Hello, everyone. Welcome to Weekends with Amit, and I am Krishanu, your host. Last week, we had a very interesting subject. Why do we live? Now, there were a lot of explanations given by our panelists, and I'm sure those are very important how to accumulate the experiences, how to prepare for the next incarnation, how to explore your archetype for this life. So, that was one thing. And today's subject is how crazy are we? Now, these subjects are very unlike the subjects we used to have before, where were heavy sounding names. These are very simple questions. How crazy are we? Now, some of you might be taken aback. Why are these guys generalizing everyone as crazy? Are everybody crazy? Well, we'll find out in a moment. And what defines craziness is also which will be discussed today and what we can do about it. Help me welcome Professor Amit Goswami and Dr. Valentina Onisar. A very warm welcome to both of you. Well,
Hi.
so today's subject is how crazy are we? And a lot of people would not like to be called crazy. So, how do we go ahead with that? Over to Professor Goswami.
Thank you, Krishanu. So, how crazy are we? Some of you are thinking I'm going to say that, well, if you are destroying the spaceship that we live on, then we must be crazy. Because crazy people do that. They sit on the same tree that they are sitting on and then start chopping off the tree. No, I'm not talking about that very much. That is important, of course, and people have been talking about that for about 60 years, to no avail, by the way. Only noise, lot of noise, but nobody is doing anything that is really, really substantial on that score, doing the spaceship that we live. No, I'm talking about real craziness. I mean, really, the big enchilada, craziness. Craziness is abnormal behavior, usually, because that affects everyone. But that's really preceded by states for a long time, which shows the disturbance clearly. To the person initially, nobody else is very much, but then it starts bleeding off to other people as well. So we now have a lot of understanding about these precursors of craziness. They're called personality disorders. So another way of putting it, how many people today suffer from personality disorders? Like we have, I'm using popular language, neurotic personalities, we have antisocial personalities, we have psychotic personalities. Three kinds of clusters of personality. Altogether, 9 or 10 personalities that psychologists talk about. Uh, this concept of personality is very important. Personality does not mean that you have a visible disease that is affecting other people. But as I said, they're precursors. If you have them, unless you prevent them, it's likely that you will become crazy at some point. Very similar to the situation with global warming. It is right now, of course, visible things are happening, but they're not affecting a lot of people. In America, nobody cares about California. They're crazy people anyway, right? According to Midwesterners. So California is having some problems, but we turn the other way. Or Ukraine, again, they are very far off from America. Or India, where I am right now. So people don't in general care about it. But there is something that's happening every country. And this has to be analyzed. And what I'm going to argue today is that if we analyze it properly using quantum science, then we discover something very interesting. And that will throw a new light on this question, how crazy are we? All right. Now, from this perspective itself, 50, 60, 70 years ago, modern psychologists used to talk about mystics. The great people, Buddha, they were mystics. They're called mystics from modern point of view because their views are a bit mischievous. They're saying there's one consciousness from which we all come. To a materialist today, it seems like not maybe crazy exactly, but a strange idea. So 50, 60, 70 years ago, when modern psychology were coming to prominence, people used to say that, well, those are a bit crazy personality because their consensus, first of all, they're focused on the internal too much. They don't care about the external world very much. And second of all, the internal world they talk about, does not agree with consensus internal world, what most people experience. So at that time, the understanding was what most people experience is normal, what a few people experience must be abnormal. To this, mystics consistently answered, the great mystics. Their answer was that, look, what we are talking about is not irrational. Irrational things, if you live that way, makes you function less than par. But look at, we are functioning, we hope, not less than par. We are doing good. And agreed. I mean, Buddha, Jesus, they are exemplars of, they're creators of civilization. Millennia for their teachings have been helpful to many of us. So we certainly have to agree with them. Their answer was they're acting on super rational ideas, not irrational ideas. Irrational ideas is a sign of craziness. And then others were not so kind, others were directly accusing ordinary people of basic irrationality in the sense that they do not even see that really one doesn't have to fight, one doesn't have to create so much discordance, one can be friendly to each other, one can love each other. The reason we don't do that is that we are crazy. Yes. If not crazy, slightly less derogatory word is blind. We are ignorant. That's another way of putting it. Okay, now this is enough of a preamble. So now, quantum psychology. Valentina and I are working on it right now. It is very new and fresh. And we started discovering the quantum science of these personalities, abnormal personalities. Our special interest was the psychotic disorders, among which there is the paranoids, about which you all know, people who cannot trust, lack of trust. That's bit understood. The interesting one is the next stage. Not exactly a stage, but the one next is called it's really a word that uses the word schizo. Schizo, what does schizo mean? Schizo itself, dictionary often defines as crazy, but schizo actually means cracked personality. Personality cracked between two dualities. Human beings live dichotomies, like inner outer dichotomy is a common dichotomy. And most people prefer the outer, but there are introverts, they prefer the inner reality. And certainly, if the inner reality becomes too dominant, then it can happen that craziness begins. So these personalities are called schizoid. The next one is called schizotypal. I won't go into it. That's pretty much agreed upon that that's when you have that, then that's pretty close to schizophrenia. But schizoid is not schizophrenia. Mind you, it's still away from actually split between two selves. However, schizoid, according to psychologists, conventional psychologists, is preponderance of the inner over the outer. But truly, you have to be fair. So quantum psychology is showing us that in order to be fair, you must also define the preponderance of outer over the inner. That is also not a balance. So both are schizoid. Agreed? One type of schizoid is outer, way unbalanced compared to the inner. The other is the inner gets the dominance over the outer, way unbalanced. Unbalance is the key. Okay, look at from that point of view. Now, do you see what I'm saying? We have been talking about worldview polarization for quite some time. What are the two worldviews? Look at that. One type of worldview is the materialist worldview. That's the academically dominant one. Scientists prefer it. The media has bought it totally, lock, stock, and barrel, as they say. And ordinary people, of course, are all mixed up. But not as mixed up as would be healthy. Mixed up is good here because that would establish a little bit of balance. That balance used to exist 100 years ago. But starting about 60, 70 years, the balance is now gradually disappearing. So now we have one class of people, the materialists, who totally focus on the outer. They don't even give validity to much of inner experience, only the thinking, because computers, according to them, can do thinking. Of course, computers have no experience. So can it be called thinking? That itself is dubious, but nevertheless, they allow thinking. At least they can make some theory. Rational thinking is algorithmic thinking, computers can do it, and so. But feeling, no. Intuition, absolutely no. They're paranoid about ESP, extrasensory perception that many humans have. Interesting, isn't it? This is one camp. The other camp internalizes. They're open to the collective unconscious. They get some of the old images from the collective unconscious, archetypal images, like the image of power is the king in the collective unconscious. That's the way our ancestors constructed it. And because they value the collective unconscious, they take king as the authority figure, as the model of the authority. No wonder that they will support dictatorial figures of today that you see everywhere, almost everywhere. And no wonder that they will react to the outer realists in a reactionary way. These outer people are rational, they're science-based, these people will be anti-science, and guess what? They are not open to intuition like mystics. They would be irrational. And this is what you see. But look, is the rational also not equally crazy? You know why? It's very simple. Look at the prose, look at the poetry, look at the art that computers are creating. It's fully rational, but it's not reality. It's not reality. Computers cannot distinguish between reality and imagination. Brain cannot do it either. We do it. Consciousness is necessary. So without consciousness, even the Wall Street Journal recently wrote an article that without consciousness, computers will be psychopathic and sociopathic. I'm saying that they would also be schizoid. only the focus on outer, no focus on inner. But the focus itself is way one-sided, and that is what craziness is about. So what has happened is that the leaders of the group, both groups, they have imagined rationality on one side. Yes, there is more rationality on the side of imagination because you can make the imagination sound rational. Like the computer can write prose, which will sound like it's very rational. Only a good analysis will show that no, much of the components are actually imagination. They're projections. They don't have real basis in people's behavior and experience. And the rationalist will have the craziness more exposed. But it's like saying that one piece of shit which looks good, one side of shit looks good, and therefore it's better than the other side, which looks terrible. Shit is shit. And what I'm saying is that both of the camps, that are the two camps of today's people's cognizing, one cognizes according to the outer, other cognizes according to the inner, one cognizes according to rational sounding imagination, other cognizes according to explicitly irrational imagination. But the difference is trivial. Imagination is imagination. Making it rational imagination does not help. Imagination is still imagination. For example, a gross example of the imagination is human beings are machines. That's an imagination. But you're selling it as reality. So if somebody says, the opposite camp will say human beings are Allah. Agreed. It's wild. But is it any less incorrect? Incorrect is incorrect. There's not such thing as less incorrect or more incorrect. Both are incorrect. You see what I'm getting at? How crazy are we? We are close. Just like how warm are we? We are close. We are close to disaster. We are close to disaster also about mental health. Valentina?
So indeed, I mean, hearing you made me laugh, and I think when you see this kind of dichotomies, what one can do, first of all, yeah, you need to laugh, right? So you laugh of all these dichotomies, but also looking at yourself, and sometimes you are in this way and sometimes you're in this way. Sometimes you're getting depressed or you're getting jealous or you're getting in a state of guilt and sabotaging yourself again, which is obviously not a good state of mental health. Also, we are sabotaging, as Amit started, we are cutting our own crack on living on this planet, what we are doing, right? So again, it takes a lot of laughing. Probably laughing would be the way that would take us out of this state, But again, laughing also can be healthy laughing or not so healthy, But that healthy laugh would probably be one of the best ways to take us out of all these masquerades, and so many masks that we are putting on ourselves, and we how can we see that true? We just see what is politically correct everywhere. And I mean, we don't have to give so many examples to get in trouble, but all this political correctness, you see it's so everywhere. People who are, again, now Hollywood, what's happening with the media. So all these are in the hands of some people, which you may wonder if they are healthy or not. And all that, imagine we have these mirror neurons. So we are picking up, we are influenced by everybody around us, unless we develop what is called character, right? And to me, I mean, I had also my hard years of sufferance and so on, but also I see my patients and the people around me. And you see, we really had to write this book. You will love, I think maybe we'll publish in 2 years or so. It's like an encyclopedia, and it's so many angles, and the importance of putting all these things together and coming with a new paradigm into mental healing also. It's urgent, you know. But again, if you can even look from the perspective of the chakras. Now everybody knows about the chakras, and from what I experienced, again, on myself and on others, I mean, of course, besides the grounding that comes from the first chakra, Muladhara chakra, and the fact that walking, for example, just walking around in nature, connecting with earth, gardening, for example, if you're very anxious, if you are having ADHD or whatever anxieties, neuroses, I found that it's very much helpful working with nature, you know, with animals also, but in the same time cultivating self-respect and anything that has to do with Manipura chakra, you know. So that's in quantum science we speak about the first of the brains at the level of the belly. Yeah, you have hara in karate. So in again, what I perceive is that that is the place where again you can say that you are really starting to build a character. You have built a certain lucidity, and you can see the things in a different way. Unless you develop and strengthen and purify this level of our being, which is the abdominal brain, actually, all that we have until there is just mud, you know. So it's metaphorically earth and water, the first two levels of our consciousness, yeah, the first two chakras. So unless we develop some fire, which again, by the way, as I started, it can be developed very easily with cultivating humor, you know, laughing. It's not by coincidence. There are doctors who are already using these laughing techniques, you know, in even working with cancer, but also with other illnesses or disturbances, and also with mental health disorders, you know. So again, it is related with Manipura chakra. Why? Because when you're having a good laugh, you're laughing with all your heart. Yeah. And it's actually helping the energies move a little bit up. It's not enough, obviously, but it's a mandatory beginning, I would say, you know. Also, I saw the importance of understanding again the sexual energy. I see that it's a lot of relation between the sexual energy which is perverted, which is not sublimated, which you're not using sexual energy with love and with creativity. I mean, it's a very huge creative energy there. And if this energy is stuck, you're stuck at this level, a sexual level, then you are prone very easily to develop all various problems like depression, for example. Yeah, it's again, it's one place where to start understanding and looking into this kind of energy as to what is, and a sacred energy, which is in fact, you know. So also it's interesting to see how the onset of various mental problems develop. Yeah, many times we don't even know how crazy we are, really. And again, it's even a joke, like if two or three people tell you that you're drunk, then you better go to bed, you know. So take a look around you a little bit and see also how you're perceived, you know, how what your friends are feedback. With the feedback of your friends, it's essential. Having friendships, it's something fundamental. It's like having love in your life. It's something that can help us a lot on this path of transformation. Yeah. So the onset of various mental problems, it's interesting because, I mean, also if you take the spiritual perspective, many times, even during the worst crisis or the worst sufferances, you are having in front of your nose a possibility of a great quantum leap of wisdom there. But also, again, sometimes it can happen the opposite, you know. So if you're finding yourself in a state of sufferance, I don't recommend you to indulge too much into that. Get the help that you need. And again, walk, nature, start moving. Don't stay like a potato on the couch, you know, which is happening many times, you know, just waiting for it to pass. And again, take care of yourself, like practice this self-respect and self-love, because you're important, you know. We are all this we are having these divine sparks in ourselves. And again, sometimes it can take longer, some years, you know, to just really process a certain sufferance and come out with a huge lesson of it. But sometimes it's about the attitudes that we cultivate on a daily basis, and the choices the choices that we do, or the choices that we don't do, that are keeping us in various states of resonance, which can be positive or negative. So remember that you have a choice, and the choice to blossom needs to be there, and is part of the mental health. Amit?
I really like this part. You know, good love, healthy love is something a lot of people really, really miss. So much so, at least in our city, I can say in Kolkata, India, there are some laughing clubs where people would go in the morning and have a belly laugh standing around, something like that. It takes off a lot of load of them. And for viewers, if you want to have some lovely moments, some really good laugh, and not only that, a lot more, lot more, then you can check out our workshop in Jaipur, India, beginning 2nd of March this year. This would be a 10-day program, 2nd of March to 11th of March. People from 14 countries will be arriving there. This will be a hero's journey. If you can click on the links given here and visit our website or email us at info@amitgoswami.org. We'll respond to you. And this is going to be an enormously wonderful experience. So if you don't want to miss it, get in touch with us. Now, continuing on with a really good energy to Professor Goswami to wrap this up.
Thank you, Krishna. Okay, good news and bad news. Bad news first. Bad news is that the two ways of looking at our craziness, we're not taking care of our own spaceship where we live, and the two tents we have created because we are doing irrational thinking, imaginary thinking, thinking imaginary as reality. The difference between the two tents is that one sounds more rational, it is rational, but the basic assumptions are irrational. That's why it sounds rational, because once you forget the basic assumption, namely we are machines, we are made of matter, matter is everything, all those basic assumptions where the craziness enters. Rest of it is rational, but doesn't help. It's still imagination. The other side is openly rational, and it's not openly rational either. They too have some rationality. As I said, collective unconscious, idea of religion, values, spiritual values, they put some lip service to that. So both sides have semblances of rationality, but mostly it is imagination, not reality. So how does one know reality? The first thing is to integrate, right? Okay, laughing is good. Laughing is halfway towards creativity. And creativity is the way to integrate. And creativity for what? Creativity for establishing wholeness. Now, this is something that even the mystics of the old at least partially missed. Although, to his credit, Jesus did talk about making whole of the inner and the outer, making whole of the male and female, making whole of the transcendent and immanent. And mystics in India also have talked about at least making whole of transcendent and immanent. And Tantra has talked about making whole of male and female, inner and outer. That too has been talked about. But mysticism as a whole is way towards the inner. No argument there. And when we mean wholeness in the quantum way, then we really mean wholeness, balancing and transcending, integrating inner and outer. So we are not entirely supporting the traditional spirituality that they have this world negating tendency. That too has to let go. Maybe that is a phase that some humans have to go through. But generally speaking, wholeness is the idea of spirituality, establishing wholeness, integrating all dichotomies, dualities that we face. And today it is more important than ever. Look at the whole meaning of evil, good evil dichotomy that most of our history is based on. Whole meaning of it is today lost. We cannot identify what is good, what is evil anymore. Both sides, by the way of the two tens, call the other side evil. And the other side is, to some extent. They see the evilness of the other side, they don't see the evilness of their own side. That's the problem. Materialists will not see that fundamentally their fundamental assumptions are evil, derogatory, destructive of the human nature, ignores the potentiality, takes only the what is actually seen, manifest part of humanity. Yes, manifest part is mostly machine-like. Yes, most people live in me-centeredness. Yes, most people live in negative emotions and pleasure. But the potentialities are within reach. All you have to do is to be creative. And some of us are. So you know who are the uncrazy people? And do you see the responsibility of being not so crazy? Do you see our responsibility if you are listening to the podcast? Do you see that you are one of the few who understands what we are talking about and agrees and can do something about it by establishing wholeness within you and helping others to reach wholeness? Do you see? This is where we are continuing the same conversation as last week. We talked about more about hero's journey. Why should we live? Why do we live? And now we are talking about the craziness that makes us avoid the hero's journey. But that's not for you, my dear listener. You are ready, and you can, and you must. In order to save the spaceship Earth from global warming and terrorism and war, plus save us from craziness and real schizo, you have to act. It's not too late. That's the good news. Good news is that quantum science is here. We have a science to help us. We can all be heroes, and we can do it. And you know what? We must do it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This good news is extremely important for motivation. The bad news shows sort of a mirror, and the good news gives us the motivation to go ahead. I'm sure our viewers will feel motivated. And this was a very interesting episode as far as I was concerned. And the definition of craziness that you gave, the way you placed it, and yes, truly, this spaceship needs special attention. It is in very big problem right now, so we can solve it. There is still time, and I am sure as the movement of consciousness drives all of us, we will come out of it together. Thank you so much for being with us on this show. See you next week.